Part 1. Lars Mittank, a German tourist who vanished without a trace. Some disappearances happen in silence, others leave behind only questions. But few vanishings are as unsettling as the one caught entirely on camera. This is the true story of Lars Mittank, a healthy 28-year-old man who walked calmly into an airport and then ran out like he was being chased. He was never seen again. Lars Joachim Mittank was born in 1986 and grew up in the quiet town of Itzehoe, Germany. He was the only child of his mother Sandra, who later became the main voice in the search for him. By all accounts, Lars was kind, easygoing, and mentally stable. He worked as an industrial technician, enjoyed football, especially Werder Bremen, and had a small but loyal circle of friends. In June 2014, he joined 5 friends for a vacation in Golden Sands, Bulgaria, a coastal resort known for its sandy beaches, wild nightlife, and low-cost hotels. It was supposed to be a break from the stress of everyday life. The trip started off as planned. The group drank, swam, partied, and watched the World Cup matches together in bars. But just days into the trip, things began to unravel. One evening, Lars got into an argument with another group of German tourists at a bar. The reason? Football. According to some reports, the other group supported Bayern Munich, and the disagreement escalated quickly. Later that night, Lars claimed he had been ambushed by several men, possibly friends of the Bayern fans. He returned to the hotel with a visibly injured ear and told his friends he didn't feel right. He was taken to a doctor the next morning, who diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum and advised him not to fly. The rest of the group offered to stay, but Lars insisted they go home. He would wait until he recovered and fly a few days later. He checked into Hotel Color, a small budget hotel in Varna. That's where his behavior became truly concerning. That night, Lars called his mother. He whispered that people were trying to drug him. He said he was hiding and felt unsafe. He begged her to cancel his credit cards. His voice was panicked, uneven. She tried to calm him, to ask for details, but he wouldn't say more. Security footage from the hotel shows him pacing the lobby, stepping into and out of the elevator, crouching behind furniture as if hiding from someone. At one point, he left the hotel for hours, in the middle of the night, before returning at dawn. Where he went and why has never been confirmed. The following day, on July 8th, he took a taxi to Varna Airport. His mother had bought him a ticket home. At the airport, he visited the medical office to confirm he could fly. According to the airport doctor, Lars was visibly agitated. He spoke of someone following him, whispered that he had to get out, that he wasn't safe. Then, without warning, Lars stood up and ran. He left his backpack behind. He bolted out of the terminal. Security cameras caught him sprinting through the parking lot, climbing over a barbed wire fence and disappearing into the nearby woods. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. The following hours were filled with confusion. The airport called his mother, who was stunned. Searches were launched around the airport area, in the fields, along the nearby roads. But no trace was ever found. No calls, no withdrawals, no verified sightings. He had simply vanished. Over the years, countless theories have emerged. One centers on his antibiotic prescription, cefuroxime. Though generally safe in rare cases, it can cause neuropsychiatric side effects, especially in combination with stress or head trauma. Confusion, hallucinations, paranoia, all have been documented in medical literature. Could Lars have been experiencing a sudden, drug-induced mental break? Another theory suggests he may have had an undiagnosed mental illness, such as schizophrenia or paranoid delusions. The average age of onset for schizophrenia in men is in the late 20s. It's possible that his condition surfaced for the first time during the trip, triggered by the fight, the injury, and being alone in a foreign country. But not everyone believes this was a medical issue. His mother has long maintained that Lars was being followed, that someone was after him. She believes he may have witnessed something or been involved in something he didn't understand. Perhaps the bar fight wasn't random. Perhaps his claims of being followed weren't delusions, but warnings. Some even believe organized crime may have played a role. Human trafficking, drug networks, or robbery gangs are known to operate in certain parts of Eastern Europe. Could Lars have been targeted? Was he lured or coerced into something without fully realizing it? And then there's the airport itself. Many point to the strange fact that his panic began just after his visit to the airport doctor. What triggered that final moment of terror? To this day, the case has inspired forums, documentaries, podcasts, and amateur investigations. There have been supposed sightings in the Netherlands, Canada, Brazil, even a mysterious homeless man in Dresden that some claimed resembled Lars. But none of these leads have been confirmed. What makes this case so deeply disturbing is the visibility of it all. Unlike so many missing person cases, we actually see Lars in full health, full motion, on camera. We see the fear, we see the escape, and yet we don't know what he was running from. For his mother, the nightmare continues. She still pleads for answers, still clings to hope. She believes her son may still be out there, lost, afraid, confused, and she refuses to give up. What do you believe happened to Lars Mittank? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy true mysteries like this one, subscribe for more, because sometimes the most chilling stories are the ones that really happened. Part 2, Elisa Lam, a case that shook the internet. In February 2013, 21-year-old Elisa Lam traveled alone from Vancouver, Canada to Los Angeles. She was a bright, creative student with dreams of adventure, exploration, and finding her place in the world. Elisa loved books, fashion, and writing. She often shared her thoughts openly on social media, revealing a thoughtful, sensitive soul who sometimes struggled with anxiety and depression. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, conditions she spoke openly about on her blog. She described her struggles candidly, offering a glimpse into the complex inner world she carried with her. Despite these challenges, Elisa remained hopeful, documenting her dreams, fears, and aspirations with remarkable honesty. She arrived in Los Angeles full of excitement, choosing to stay at the historic Cecil Hotel, an old building in downtown LA known for its cheap rates and troubled past. She checked in on January 26th. She was assigned a shared room on the 5th floor, but after reports from her roommates about Elisa's odd behavior, she was moved to a private room a few days later. This is the true story of the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. At first, everything seemed ordinary. Elisa visited local bookstores, explored the city, and kept in daily contact with her parents back in Vancouver. She spoke of the sights she had seen, the people she had met. But then, without warning, the calls and emails stopped. Her parents, immediately alarmed, contacted the Los Angeles Police Department, and the search for Elisa began. Flyers with her photo were posted around the city. Investigators combed through the hotel, searching hallways, stairwells, and the rooftop. They found her belongings left behind in her room. Her laptop, wallet, clothes, everything except Elisa herself. With no leads, the police released a piece of key evidence, surveillance footage from one of the hotel's elevators recorded on the night of her disappearance. In the now infamous video, Elisa appears confused and distressed. She presses multiple buttons on the elevator panel. She peeks out into the hallway, stepping in and out nervously. She moves her hands in strange, twisting gestures as if speaking to an unseen presence. At times, she hides against the elevator wall, glancing toward the corridor. Strangely, the elevator doors stay open much longer than normal, refusing to close even as she moves inside. Then, after nearly 4 minutes, Elisa steps out and vanishes from view. The elevator doors finally close behind her. To many viewers, the footage felt otherworldly, as if the hotel itself had trapped her within its walls. Others believed it captured the precise moment when reality blurred into something far stranger. It was this chilling uncertainty that kept people watching and wondering. The footage went viral, viewed by millions within days. Speculation ran wild across the internet. Was Elisa being followed? Was she suffering a mental health episode? Or was something more sinister at play within the walls of the Cecil Hotel? The building itself had long been linked to darkness. Since its opening in 1927, the Cecil Hotel had earned a reputation for tragedy. It was a place associated with suicides, murders, and even serial killers passing through its halls. Infamous figures like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had stayed there. Stories of shadowy figures, phantom sounds, and unexplained deaths had surrounded the building for decades. In the eyes of many, Elisa Lam's fate became the latest and perhaps most heartbreaking addition to its dark lore. As days turned into weeks, frustration and fear mounted. Where had she gone? How could a young woman vanish from a locked building without a trace? Then, on February 19th, strange complaints began to surface from hotel guests. They reported low water pressure, foul-tasting water, and black discoloration coming from their taps. Maintenance workers were dispatched to the rooftop, where 4 large water tanks supplied the building. Opening one of the tanks, they made a horrifying discovery. Floating inside the water was the body of Elisa Lam. She was naked, her clothes found at the bottom of the tank. There were no visible wounds, no signs of struggle. The tank lid was reportedly difficult to open, heavy and awkward even for staff members. The rooftop access doors were supposed to be locked and alarmed. Yet somehow, Elisa had reached the roof unnoticed, climbed onto the tank, opened the lid, and slipped inside. The discovery horrified not only her family but also the guests, who had unknowingly consumed contaminated water for weeks. Lawsuits were filed against the hotel, claiming negligence and unsafe conditions. Public outcry grew as questions about the hotel's responsibility mounted. The coroner's report would later rule her death an accidental drowning. Toxicology results showed no signs of drugs or alcohol beyond her prescribed medication, no evidence of foul play, no signs of assault. Yet, many questions remain. Why did she act so strangely in the elevator? Why had she ended up on the roof, a place she shouldn't have been able to reach? How could she have closed the heavy lid from inside the tank, if it was ever closed at all? And if it wasn't foul play, why had no one heard or seen anything? Some pointed to urban legends and ghost stories long associated with the Cecil Hotel. Tales of shadowy figures, phantom sounds, and unexplained deaths had surrounded the building for decades. In the eyes of many, Elisa Lam's death became the latest and perhaps most haunting chapter in the hotel's long history. Conspiracy theories flourished. Some believed Elisa had fallen victim to dark forces that lingered within the building. Others insisted the answer was more mundane, yet just as heartbreaking, a young woman overwhelmed by the weight of her own mind. The death of Elisa Lam continues to haunt the halls of the Cecil Hotel, a place where sorrow seems etched into the very walls. A young woman filled with hope and dreams, lost forever in a place weighed down by decades of darkness. Today, the Cecil Hotel stands under a new name, rebranded and remodeled. But for many, its legacy remains unchanged. A place where the walls seem to whisper forgotten sorrows, where the shadows hold secrets too heavy to reveal. Elisa's story reminds us how fragile life is, how easily one step, one moment can lead into the unknown, and how sometimes answers are swallowed by the silence. What do you believe happened to Elisa Lam? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy true mysteries like this one, subscribe for more, because sometimes the most chilling stories are the ones that really happened. Part 3. The Dyatlov Pass Mystery. What really happened in the snow? In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out on a trek through the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. They never returned. What searchers found weeks later would become one of the most chilling and baffling unsolved mysteries in modern history. This is the true story of the Dyatlov Pass incident. Led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student, the group consisted of 8 men and women, all young, fit, and well-trained in winter expeditions. Their goal was to reach Mount Otterten, a remote peak deep within the mountains. They were seasoned hikers, members of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, and had completed similar expeditions in the past. They set off on January 27, 1959. The plan was to return by February 12th. On February 1st, they pitched their tent on the slope of Kolotsiakl. According to recovered photos and journal entries, spirits were high. They sang songs, took group photos, and wrote detailed notes of their journey. But after that, the trail went cold. When no word came by the 12th, families grew concerned. A search party was dispatched by February 20th. What they found defied explanation. The hiker's tent was discovered on the slopes of Kolotsiakl, known by local Mansi tribes as Dead Mountain. It had been cut open from the inside. Boots, gear, and clothing were left behind, as if the group had fled into the snow in a panic, some of them barefoot. Footprints in the snow showed that they had run into the forest, not in a frenzied stampede, but in an orderly line, as if trying to remain together. 2 bodies were found near a cedar tree dressed only in underwear. Their hands showed signs of burns, and the branches above them were broken, suggesting they had tried to climb the tree, possibly to look for the others. 3 more bodies were located further downhill, frozen, facing back toward the tent. They seemed to have died trying to return. The final 4 were found 2 months later, buried under several feet of snow in a ravine, and their condition was horrifying. One had a shattered skull. Another had multiple broken ribs. One woman's eyes and tongue were missing. Despite the injuries, no signs of struggle or external wounds were found on their bodies. No blood, no bruises, no defensive marks. Forensic experts were stunned. They concluded that the force required to cause such injuries was similar to a car crash, but there were no vehicles, no avalanche, no attackers. The bodies showed high levels of radiation on some of the clothing, another mystery that deepened the confusion. The Soviet government launched an investigation. Their conclusion? An unknown compelling force. No further explanation was given. The case was quietly closed, but the questions never stopped. Over the decades, theories have exploded: an avalanche, military testing, paranormal activity, a secret weapon, a Yeti attack, even alien contact. Each theory has its supporters and its flaws. The avalanche theory suggests the hikers cut open their tent to escape a snowslide, but the tent was found still standing, and the injuries, particularly crushed chests and missing organs, don't match avalanche trauma. Others point to Soviet military experiments, as the area was known for missile testing. Could the group have witnessed something they weren't supposed to see? Some believe the hikers were victims of infrasound, low-frequency sound waves caused by wind and terrain, theorized to trigger panic and hallucinations. The Yeti theory gained popularity after a satirical newspaper article was misunderstood as real. And then there are the more fringe ideas: UFOs, portals, time anomalies. In 2020, Russian authorities reopened the case and pointed again to an avalanche. But experts and critics say the evidence still doesn't add up. Even modern avalanche simulations show discrepancies. The hikers were experienced. They set up camp in a safe spot. They weren't reckless, they weren't amateurs. Their journals showed they were calm, organized, enjoying the trip. So what did they see that night that made them tear open their tent from within and run into the frozen dark? Something terrified them, something they couldn't explain. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass remains a place of mystery, speculation, and silence. 9 young lives vanished into the snow, and a question that still haunts the cold wind of the Urals. What really happened that night? Even now, more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass remains a place of silence and speculation. Was it fear? Forces unknown? Something we weren't meant to see? In the years that followed, the Dyatlov Pass became more than just a mystery. It became a symbol of how fragile life is in the wild, of how quickly order can collapse into chaos, and of how much we still don't know about the forces that surround us. Documentaries, books, and investigations have kept the story alive. Tourists still hike the same route, retracing the group's final steps. Some do it to honor their memory, others to search for answers. But the truth has never come to light. Even now, more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass remains a place of silence and speculation. Was it fear? Forces unknown? Something we weren't meant to see? The snow keeps its secrets, But the story lives on, in whispers, in theories, and in questions that still haunt the wind. What do you believe happened on that frozen mountain in 1959? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy real-life mysteries like this one, subscribe for more, because sometimes the most chilling stories are the ones that really happened.